Are you looking for a way to make co-parenting easier? Talking Parents can help you streamline your shared parenting responsibilities and minimize conflict by keeping all interactions organized and documented. With Talking Parents, you can stop worrying about the he said, she said, and focus on what matters most, your children. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and start a 30-day free trial today. Welcome back. Today we're talking about representing yourself in divorce court. And we have some legal guidance from the founder of Win Without Law School, Billie Tarascio. Welcome, Billie.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Billie, I love watching everything you're doing in the world, and this is such a vitally important topic. There are so many people who either run out of money or just don't have the funds. And representing yourself in divorce court is by no means an easy task. And without guidance and the understanding of the documentation and the jargon and the process, it can take an overwhelming situation and just really put you on your ear. But with step-by-step guidance and easy to understand resources and integrity-based, wise, experienced support, that can all change for the better. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with Billie Tarascio. So, Billie, before we dive in, what I love to do is ask my guests to share something that is unique about yourself that maybe everybody doesn't know. What do you have for us?
Well, in addition to having 4 kids and being Italian, like those things people know about me, but I love to cook and spend a lot of time taking ingredients and creating meals and dishes and playing in the kitchen. And I just think food is so powerful in our lives and really enjoy that aspect of my free time.
Beautiful. What is one of your favorite dishes?
Well, I'm always trying new things. So last week I did a coconut chicken curry, which I'd never done before. Yesterday I did a pasta fagioli or soup with pasta and meat. And I've been experimenting with having local, organic, sustainably raised food delivered, like vegetables and different meats. And so that's been fun too, because you have to kind of learn how to cook with new things that you wouldn't buy at the store.
That's right. And I do the same thing. You also have to learn that they don't last as long as the supermarket produce because they're alive and just picked. And so if you let them sit around for 2 or 3 or 4 days, they're all of a sudden not so pretty.
Right. No, you're entirely right. Like I've got a bell pepper from the store and a bell pepper from the farm, and 3 days later, they don't look the same. So
And the last thing I'll say on that, which I found amazing, is my local market has destroyed me for shopping in the supermarket because the flavor is incredibly different. It's like you buy an organic cherry tomato and it bursts with flavor in your mouth, and then you bite into one in the supermarket and it tastes like water with a little bit of tomato flavor in it.
exactly. You're exactly right.
So, folks, let's dive into, I'm curious the origin story. So you have a brilliant firm out in Arizona, and I know that like every other attorney, you work one-on-one with clients. Can you share a little bit of what inspired you to create this platform and a little bit about what it is?
I have been working on access to justice issues since my career started. So I got out of law school in 2005, and it was clear immediately that people couldn't afford the rates of lawyers. Like normal people couldn't afford what every lawyer was charging. And so I think, a born entrepreneur and was like, "Ah, we can solve this." And I've been trying ever since. And it's not as easy as we can solve this, but I've tried and done many, many, many iterations of how do I improve access to justice? How can we fix the system?
Yeah. And so when it comes to divorce court, it's so complex, right? If just the finances is so complex, the all the issues around children, but then you add in if you're dealing with a higher conflict and just legal abuse and court orders. And so, how in the world do you support people with so much complexities with an online program? I think we've got so many listeners who are at their wits' end and are looking for a more affordable way of going forward.
So the current iteration of my access to justice movement is Win Without Law School. And that is it's a community and a program where you become a member and then you have access to courses and materials. But that's not where the real magic comes in. There's a closed private Facebook group where people can support one another. That's not even where the magic comes in. There are coaching calls with our members 4 days a week. And that's where the magic comes in, because you can come 4 days a week and ask your question and give us an update on your case, and we can brainstorm different options for you. So we don't become your lawyer. We're not representing you, but we're your coach. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? This is strategies that have worked for other people. You may want to try this. Oh, I really don't like the way you're framing XYZ. Could we frame it this way? So it's ongoing, active intervention and support while they're representing themselves.
So that's interesting. It's almost like legal coaching.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not legal advice because you're not their attorney. And yet, with all of your experience and wisdom, if somebody is presenting something, communicating something in a way that's not going to serve them, you're going to know that right away and be able to help them pivot. What are some of the most common challenges that the people in Win Without Law School come to you with?
What's interesting is most of our members are in active, complex litigation. They're not in simple, uncontested cases. You don't really need that type of support for your simple, uncontested cases. This support is best for people with complex issues. So we've got clients who have criminal issues along with business issues and who've been in court for many, many years, or parents who don't have any parenting time, who have to figure out how to demonstrate that they should have parenting time. So it's a lot of support on how to show up in court. Most of our members are going to court.
So, just to be clear, most of your members are standing before a judge with possibly an attorney and soon to be X or X next to them. And they're standing there by themselves without a legal degree, without having gone to law school, and they are presenting their case.
Right, right. And what we give them is on knowledge and support and coaching, so that when they go into court, they know the rules of procedure. They know what to expect at trial. They have a trial outline that they've created. They have a strategy. They're focused. We can't give you a win, but we can give you knowledge and empowerment so that you can show up on that day and not get blindsided or completely overwhelmed.
Can you share one or two stories with us? Just that piece of it, someone who goes and maybe was blindsided and overwhelmed before they met you, and the impact that your program had.
Yes, so many people represent themselves in family court and they assume that they can show up and tell their story and the judge will get it and side with them because it's so obvious. And people make this mistake every single day in family court. And they're gambling with the very most important aspects of their entire life, their children and their financial security, and they have no idea how much of a gamble it is that they're taking and what the rules of the game are and how the system works. And they believe that it should work a certain way. And it's completely logical the way that they think it should work. And it doesn't work that way.
What is it when a judge meets that person and that person is standing before them? What is the likely response or outcome of a judge?
Well, usually it's like people speaking different languages, because I go to court and you go into court and you watch what the trials that are happening before your case is called. and you can watch a person explaining what's important to them and a judge talking about the things that are important to them. And it's like they're not even in the same universe.
Mm,
And judges are so used to this and they're so annoyed and they're dismissive and they don't give people enough time. There isn't enough time in family court for you to say everything that's important to you. You
mm.
have to be laser focused on what does the judge need to know or believe or understand to give me what I want under the law? That's your question. So the entire, while you're representing yourself and while you're in litigation, your entire strategy should be around that. What does the judge need to know or believe about me or my case in order to give me what I'm asking for under the law? That's
And
a lot of steps.
everything else is ancillary. You don't want to say it, you don't want to focus on it. You're just going to mucky up the waters.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So people get clarity. They get clarity, they get focused, they get disciplined, they get prepared. That's the difference.
What kind of a, so I'm just thinking like so many of my clients, whether they're working or the stay at home, it's like just adding divorce with an attorney to the
Mhm.
mix is so overwhelming.
Mhm.
What is the time commitment that somebody going into your program needs to be realistic about so that they can succeed?
Yeah, this is not simple. It's not. So I've been a divorce lawyer for 20 years and went to all this school before I did it and now go to continuing legal education. Like it's my full-time job to be effective at what it is that you have to figure out in a matter of months, in addition to rebuilding your entire life. So let's get clarity on the enormity of the task in front of you that I think people don't take seriously enough.
Yeah, I would imagine it's kind of like being a part-time college student while you're
Right.
doing everything else. And, what's so interesting is with so many of my clients, just the emotional fog, right? And all of the triggering behaviors that are going on that they don't have the access to their logical brain that they usually do. And here you really need to be laser focused. Do you guys give some tips or strategies for if you're going to enter and you're going to do this and you're going to do it well, plan on ABC? Do you lay that out for people so they know what to budget, even in terms of time to really focus on this?
We don't, because everybody is so different, everybody's case is so different. So if you're post decree, you're going to have a different job on your hands. Depending on the county or what you have coming up, you're going to have a different job on your hands, which is why we give so much live support as you go, because as you know, litigation is its own thing.
Yep.
It's no two cases are the same, no two judges are the same. It's alive, like your case is alive. But it is, you do need to make that time commitment, like being that, that student. And we'll give you directions on what you need to do specifically, you as a student of your case. And I think what you have to do is really put your hat on, right? You put your lawyer hat on or your case hat on, court hat on, and that's over here. And there are rules and guidelines, and we'll give you that. And then all the other stuff you got to deal with over here. You got to take this hat, put it here. You got to take this, go over here, and then vent to your friends and journal and process and go to therapy and talk to your coach and allow yourself when you're focused on litigation to understand that this noise doesn't matter. I have to focus on what's in front of me on this page.
So give us one or two success stories.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many. They're literally happening every day. Like some members will join for a month. They've got a trial coming up. We had somebody come in, join us for a month, go to trial, and then successfully prove what they needed to relocate to another state with a child.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a very, very difficult thing to do. But if the facts are on your right side, right, you have the right facts, and then you know the law and you present it in the right way, then family court can be fairly easy. So for those people that have those clear-cut cases where they have very strong facts, they really benefit from Win Without Law School. Now, if you have tough facts, you're going to go in more prepared. You're going to do a better job representing yourself. You're going to feel more comfortable, but it doesn't mean that the judge is you usually don't win a case based on who your lawyer is. Usually it's a little more complicated than that.
If one is custody, do you
Mhm.
deal with like the complexities of alienation?
Definitely. Absolutely. We had a member whose case was so complicated, just so complicated. And it had been going on for years and years and years, and there had been back and forth in terms of custody and false accusations and mental health issues, like so complex. And it really came down to, what does the judge perceive about me? What does the judge perceive about my ex? And the entire strategy needed to surround alienation, because he said she was alienating. She said, no, he's dangerous. That happens every day. And it's not always the same female male dynamic, but every day people are in court saying, my kids don't want to see me because of their other parent. And then the other parent is saying, no, the kids don't want to see you because you're horrible. So you have to affirmatively show you're not horrible, and you need the court's help to get parenting time to build your relationship with your children.
That's got to be one of the most heart-wrenching too.
It really is, because there's a case where a member has a brain injury, and they have been in rehab building their brain for years. And when they were going through that rehab, there was an incident with a child, and they haven't seen the child since. And now they've successfully graduated from rehabilitation and gone back to work, and they're mentally healthy, and they have no opportunity to repair their relationship with their child because of the gatekeeping of the other parent. And that doesn't happen in intact families. So there are specific challenges to divorced and separated families that other families don't have to deal with, on top of all the other stress of raising children and being a parent.
And let's look at the finances for a second. Do financial experts come into play with the people going through your program? And what do some of those situations look like? Your kids may not be the only ones taking tests this year. SoberLink is the #1 alcohol monitoring device on the market for parents who need to prove their sobriety. Here's how it works. Your co-parent will test at scheduled times each day. Built-in facial recognition confirms their identity. Tamper sensors flag any attempts to cheat. And results get sent instantly to your phone. So you know your kids are with a sober parent, whether it's during school nights or weekends away. Set your family up for success this school year. Visit soberlink.com/JBD to learn more and get $50 off your device. Are you looking for a way to make co-parenting easier? Talking Parents can help you streamline your shared parenting responsibilities and minimize conflict by keeping all interactions organized and documented. With Talking Parents, you can stop worrying about the he said, she said, and focus on what matters most, your children. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and start a 30-day free trial today. Divorce feels like an overwhelming perfect storm as you navigate pain, fear, and confusion while struggling with unfamiliar legal procedures and the pressure to make complex decisions that will impact the rest of your life. Our free Rapid Relief Call provides the clarity and confidence you're yearning for. Visit rapidreliefcall.com for support and guidance today.
Definitely. We had an example come up recently where a guy wanted to show that his wife was hiding income. And he was fairly convinced that he could show the fact that she got approved for a certain loan meant that she had to make more income than she was saying. And that is, I get it. I get where you're coming from, but that's a terrible way to ask the court to come to the conclusion that the wife must be hiding income. You know what I mean? But like, he needed the guidance to get down to say, what are the other ways that we can show that the wife is hiding income that are direct, not indirect? A loan officer must have found that she has more income because they approved a loan is not effective. But the bank account shows that she's spending XYZ every single month, and the credit card balances aren't going up. That's income. Your ability to spend out of your bank account shows income. Because with business owners, income's real complicated.
And what
So
about,
people
but
figure out, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So we help people figure out how can you do this yourself and when can't you? When do you need an expert? So when it comes to a business valuation, you're going to need an expert to testify. You are not qualified as a party to say this business is worth X because here's the financials and let me walk you through it. Or my brother sold his company for XYZ. You can't do it. So the other thing that we help people figure out is when do you need an expert?
And what about things that are really complicated, like retirement funds and quadros? Do you have people who deal with that level of complexity in the program as well?
We do, but typically what happens is the judges just punt. So you can go forward and say, I want this account divided by a quadro, just the marital portion, and not specify what that marital portion is. And the judges will often say, okay, and as long as the parties can agree on a specific attorney or the guidelines or parameters, the dollar amount can be figured out later.
So, what are some of the other? I'm trying to think, what questions haven't I asked? What are some of the other? Here's a question for you. Who is Win Without Law School not good for?
Sure. Yeah, that is a great question. So many people can't afford Win Without Law School. So Win Without Law School, the package that I'm describing is $300 a month, which is not nothing, but you're getting a lot of attorney time. And attorney time is incredibly expensive one-on-one. So it's a real deal. You're going to spend a tenth of what you would spend with a lawyer, but it's still expensive. So some people cannot afford it. If you're unwilling to put in the time, you're not a good candidate. If you are DIY, you have to DIY. You can't not do it.
You
You have
got
to
to do
show up. You got to put in the work.
it.
So you're not a good candidate if you're not willing to show up and put in the work. You're not a good candidate if you don't accept feedback from anyone. We all know those people. And they just think they know better than anybody, and all the lawyers are dumb, and do it yourself then. If you don't want our feedback, that's totally okay. But you may not, the program may be a waste of your time. If
So,
you're working with a lawyer, you still may be a great candidate. And we have a lot of members who are working with a lawyer, but they get all this insight and all this knowledge and all these questions answered that they don't have to pay $400 an hour for. They can do it as part of their package. So they're much more informed as clients, and they find usually that their relationship with their lawyer is less frustrating. Again and again and again, people find themselves very frustrated in their attorney-client relationship.
so it's funny. That's the one I was going to ask you about. And I'd like to stay here a little bit because this sounds brilliant. Because even for those listening who I can afford an attorney,
Mhm.
I'm going broke doing it, but I can afford an attorney to spend $300 a month and be able to show up how often?
It's 4 days a week for an hour that are the office hours. And no, those are group calls, but every single time we can answer every single person's question. They're not so full that we don't get to talk to every single person about whatever it is that they have going on in their case. And the other beautiful things about these calls is you get to hear other people and what they're dealing with and our advice to them. And you may not have even known that you could apply that to your case, but you can.
Yeah.
So we're finding people have that experience a lot. Like, oh my gosh, that advice was so perfect for that person about that issue, but that applies to me too.
Yeah, we call that side door coaching. And
Mm.
honestly, when your guard isn't up, when you're not defensive and you're just listening to someone else, it's sometimes when you learn the most and you're most open to advice that can help you. And on that note, I mean, I have a lot of people who show up to our free calls and they're really asking me legal advice. And so I can say there are certain things that I know, but to be able to go to Win Without Law School and be coached by a lawyer who really knows at least the general ins and outs, of course, not the local jurisdiction information, but that to me could be so valuable to so many, even though they have their own attorney.
Absolutely. And Regardless of your jurisdiction, what happens is they'll answer a question or they'll ask a question from whatever state they're in. And Julie and I, we're both 20-year practicing family law attorneys, can say, well, in Arizona, here's how we would handle that. And there's a statute that says XYZ. Go look in your jurisdiction for that because there's always corresponding laws. They're not the same, but if there's a law in my state governing alcohol use or criminal convictions or how to define community property versus separate or whatnot, then there is a law in your state as well. And now you know exactly what to look for. You know the language to look for in your state, which is really helpful.
And in terms of other experts, like I'm thinking people who need to hire an attorney for the children or a custody evaluator or something along those lines, again, really, really critical people. How do you help them in those situations?
By giving them experience of what has happened. Somebody has a custody evaluator and they're going into the evaluation and they're not sure how to prepare. We can help you prepare. If you get an evaluation and you're not sure whether or not you should challenge portions of it or they got things wrong, they're always going to get things wrong. So we can help you understand that the report is going to have inaccuracies. That's just inevitable. Is this inaccuracy something that we really need to do something about, or is it fine? What can I do now that I've gotten my report back? It's not as great as I would like it to be. What are some potential settlements I can think about? What are some potential ways forward? So it's just so much brainstorming.
You know, what I love about even the way you speak about this, Billy, is any individual who received that report that had inaccuracies is more likely to be triggered and upset and go into story and have a reaction. And you just have this very matter of fact, this is how things work. These are how attorneys are. These are how judges are. These things happen. And I would imagine just showing up 4 days a week or however often and hearing that makes sense, this is how we pivot, this is what we can do with it, that real acceptance that I understand what the system is, and we don't have to be catastrophic about it.
Yes, because so often people don't know if they're being treated unfairly because the system feels very unfair. And so they can end up feeling very individually attacked,
Yeah.
individually frustrated, hating their lawyer, hating their judge. And it's really helpful to understand this is the system's shortcomings. You have to work with it. We don't get to change it. How are we going to maximize this imperfect system for you?
Beautiful. So when someone first signs up, what is their experience in terms of being onboarded into the program?
Sure. So they get an email and they're invited in, and then they're in the platform, and the platform has all these different courses and all these different materials. And then you get invited into the Facebook group, and you can start getting to know the other members who are active in the program. There's currently about 50 active members. This is not a huge program. There's a lot of ability to build relationships. You can put your draft questions into the Facebook group and say, what does everybody think of this? These are my issues. And people will give you feedback. And then you can start showing up at office hours, which are 4 days a week from noon to 1, and talk about your case and hear other people's cases. And you're just going to get an enormous amount of support if you are able to put in the time and put in the work.
Have you ever had somebody graduate and go to law school?
No, we haven't. We haven't. The program's only 2 years old, so it's not, it could happen.
Yeah, I would think that if somebody's like, oh, right, because I know after coaching with me, people are like, oh my God, I want to coach other people through divorce. And just listening to everybody divorcing is, or many people are looking for that next chapter afterwards. And yeah, so I was just curious.
Yeah, I wish. Law school is not exactly accessible. It's hard to get into law school. It's expensive. You have to take a lot of tests. The application process is hard. Everything is hard. It's hard to be a lawyer. But we also have this legal paraprofessional program in Arizona that allows for people to become licensed as legal paraprofessionals and practice law, which is pretty cool. And
Wow.
can do that with an undergraduate program and passing a test, or there's an experience route where if you practice as a paralegal for a certain period of time, you can take a test. Your practice is limited to the specific area that you're licensed in. So you can get licensed to practice in family law or licensed to practice in administrative law or criminal law. And then you have to stay within that scope, which is smaller than attorneys, but it's a pretty cool opportunity.
That is cool. So before we go into what does it cost and how do they enroll, can you just share a little bit about your law firm?
Sure, yeah. So my law firm is Modern Law, and we've got, I don't know, 18 lawyers. And I shouldn't even just say lawyers because we have legal paraprofessionals as well. So we have practitioners, really, that include legal paraprofessionals and attorneys. Everything from, we have a legal paraprofessional who only does all the uncontested work. And then we've got people who are 30-year, very experienced litigators. So we try to offer something in between. We've got a lawyer who is also a licensed marriage and family therapist, who's an adoptive mom. Everybody brings their own unique perspective and experience so that we can make sure whoever it is that we're serving gets matched with the right lawyer, the right practitioner.
Beautiful. And don't you do a few other things for the community that are a little bit unique for a law firm?
Yeah, we do a pro bono day, which is so fun. We have a legal clinic. We're the only law firm in Arizona that has a legal clinic where we have law students that are certified as Rule 39 law students, and they get to work under the supervision of a lawyer and provide limited scope legal services. So they at $100 an hour. So that's what I mean by we're always trying to find ways to increase access to justice and to provide the community family law resources, no matter who you are. If you have no extra money, I get it, and we have free resources for you. If you've got a little bit, we've got something for you. And if you have the most complex case and you need the most cutthroat lawyer, we've got that. So yeah, we do a pro bono day. We do doc prep days where the law students will help people fill out their paperwork. It's a lot of fun.
I have to say, Billie, from the first time I met you virtually, you really stand out so unique amongst, and I've met hundreds, if not 1,000 matrimonial attorneys, and your heart and your passion for helping people and understanding the financial overwhelm of the process. And then all of these creative ways that you've come up with to really support people where they are. I just think that you're such an incredible gift to the world and the divorcing world. And I'm so grateful that you've come to talk to our listeners.
Well, thank you so much. It's a hard thing that we do every day, right? It's a hard thing. You know this, I know this. We have vicarious trauma. It's very easy to become desensitized. Very easy because our brains protect themselves from trauma. And what our clients deal with every day is real, real trauma. So trying to stay connected and compassionate is always hard for lawyers. But one of the ways that helps me is being able to try these new creative things and just see what happens, you know? And they don't all work. I have lots and lots of failed experiments, and that's okay. They just push us to the next experiment, right?
Absolutely. So tell us where the listeners can find the Win Without Law School, what it costs, how to get started. And you can also find and follow Billie, who's got a pretty big social media following. We'll have those links in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yes. So the law firm is mymodernlaw.com. And there's a lot of information there. Winwithoutlawschool.com is the DIY program. We've got 3 different packages. The one that I've been talking to you about is the middle package or the interactive package. There is a lower package where you don't get to come to the lives, but you can still watch them all, be part of the group, and access all of the course material. All the course material is available to absolutely everyone. And then there's a top tier where you get individual coaching in addition to the group coaching.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, beautiful. So even if you have an attorney and
Mhm.
you're afraid to call them, this happens all the time. My clients are afraid to write or call because it's going to cost too much money.
Right.
Billie has just given you another way to get your questions answered and get even another perspective and show up with your attorney really educated and wise and clear and probably more confident. And so I really encourage each of you to check out Win Without Law School, see if it's for you. And Billie, thank you so much for what you do in the world. Thank you for joining our listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us on the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. I hope you found guidance and encouragement to help you along your journey. If you like my podcast, please take a minute to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. You can also visit us at jbddivorcesupport.com, where our team of coaches support both men and women through our one-on-one coaching, group programs, online courses, and free resources. Stay tuned for our next episode, and I'll talk to you soon.